Hey, welcome to HoopSpeak Live. I'm Beckley Mason with Zach Harper and Ethan Sherwood-Strauss, and we are in the NBA Finals. Thunder lead 1-0, in case you didn't know that and you're somehow watching this show. Important piece of information. Please sign in. You can ask questions of us and our guests, and also participate in the always lively HoopSpeak Live chat. Our guests today, hey, take it easy. Our guests today are Kevin Arnovitz from ESPN and Jonathan Givony from Draft Express, which is really the go-to site on NBA draft knowledge. So we're going to be peppering him with some questions about guys who aren't in the NBA yet, and then we'll have Kevin on first to get the dirty on what's going on in Oklahoma City. But right now, one of the big topics, and the one we'll dive into first, is how should the Thunder deal with Kevin Durant, who had a breezy 36 points in Game 1?
Well, I wrote about this a little bit. A lot of people have written smarter things than I did about this, and I wonder sometimes, and this was an idea emailed to me by Danny Noel, that
Now,
it's almost the extension of Noel. Well, you know, around Christmas time in France, they call him differently, and that's my preferred pronunciation. That maybe it's the extension of Hero Ball, that this idea of don't let the star beat you, and teams devote too much help and too much energy to stopping a star, or, you know, preventing him from getting his touches. And right now, on those pin down screens against the Heat, basically the Heat don't quite know what to do with it. Before, they tried to just send a lot of help to block the passing lanes, and that set up a bunch of openings and quick buckets in the regular season for the Thunder. And now the Heat are switching, and that's problematic because there are miscommunications, and sometimes Dwayne Wade gets switched on to Kevin Durant, and that is not ending well at all. He's getting burned. So I would suggest just trying to straight up play him, fight through the screen, maybe try to go under the screen to make sure he doesn't curl around and get to the hoop.
with what player? LeBron or Battier?
Well, it depends. I think you have to have some of both. I think LeBron is a better... Norris Cole. I think LeBron's a better defender.
Ankle biter extraordinaire.
I think LeBron's a better defender on Durant because he has a longer wingspan. You know how I love wingspan. Battier, even though he's almost Durant's height, has only a 6'10" wingspan. So I prefer LeBron.
He's also so much slower than LeBron.
Right, he's
yeah,
also like
well, that's a minor
old.
difference. That is a minor difference compared to the wingspan. That is the main difference between those two players. They're exactly the same except for that. So yeah, that'd be my suggestion. What do you guys think? How should Durant be dealt with?
I have two thoughts going through my head right now. One, I am really happy with my hair. I feel like it's not quite Zerbiak hair, but I'm very happy with it right now. It's got a good coif to it. Number two, I think that you can't really worry too much about Kevin Durant. Obviously, you have to, you know, he's the focus of your defense, and you have to find a way to make him work for his points. But the real problem is they just let guys go by them in Game 1, and it wasn't just Durant. Durant had, I think, 7 shots at the rim. Westbrook had 11 shots at the rim. Guys are just getting to the rim on them. They gave up 56 points in the paint. I've got a post on this in about an hour. Well, probably an hour and a half on HoopSpeak coming out.
Do you?
Not going to read.
The issue is, yes, I do. The issue is that they just gave up so many baskets by letting guys blow by them. It wasn't like a switching thing. It wasn't necessarily a pick and roll failure. They just got beat. And I think that Wade was a problem, but also LeBron was a problem to an extent. Chalmers was a problem. Battier was a problem. They just let guys go right by them. They didn't help well where they would have a guy step up and didn't have a guy drop down into that space that he just vacated, and they would give up, you know, drop-off dunks and shots like that. And the problem was just effort on defense against anybody, not just Durant.
Yeah, I think there were some rotation lapses, and like you're just going to get beat off the dribble sometimes by Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant and James Harden. Like that's just going to happen. An interesting thing about LeBron specifically on Durant is, you know, I looked at the rosters. We did a post, Brett Coromanos and I, on kind of what to look for in this matchup, and we both decided that these guys are going to have to guard each other a lot because there's just no one on either roster who can pick up the slack. Battier got a lot of those minutes in Game 1. But when you have LeBron on Durant, there's like a few. I guess it didn't entirely surprise me. Like here's how I see Spoelstra's reasoning breaking down. One, you don't want him to get tired. Two, you're going to be switching a lot anyway, so you can get him in situations where LeBron is going to be switching on to Durant at the end of the possession instead of guarding him to start. 3 was. I forget 3. Let's go to 4, which is the big one, which is team defense.
Bombing!
Is the 4th one is that team defense. God,
well, forget 3 and 4.
I can't believe you got in my head like that, Ethan. Ethan just gave me like the Shane
Battier.
Ethan just put the hand in front of my face like Shane Battier, and I totally lost it. No, it's team defense. So LeBron is like the best when he's playing. He's the best on-ball defender, but he's also their best team defender. He's their best center fielder. And it's like how the Celtics wanted to keep Garnett off of Bosh or off of LeBron. They wanted him to be able to roam. I think that the idea was that if we don't really have anyone who can lock down Westbrook or Durant one-on-one, why don't we have our best defender able to help off of either? And it just... And I think that that's something that you're going to have to watch out for. If he does guard Durant, he's going to be attached to him at the perimeter, which means that other Heat players are going to have to make the big rotation to get stops at the rim and elsewhere.
Yeah, I have nothing to follow.
I've got something. Joel Anthony has to play. Joel Anthony has to play because he is their best guy outside of LeBron who can rotate over and stop stuff at the rim. And yes, you give up a lot on offense, but if you're making stops on defense, you
How much do you give up from... I'm wondering that. I thought the same thing. Like, how much is the difference between him and Haslam, really? Like, is it that big? I can't tell.
You really have him out there when Perkins is there. When Perkins is out there, you can afford to have Joel Anthony on the floor.
Yeah, no, and I think that offense is different from defense in that you can have a weak link and still be a good offense because it's a matter of, it sounds weird to say it, penetrating, and, it's just a matter of a few guys often creating points. Yeah, it's a matter of a few guys creating points as opposed to defense where everybody needs to be fulfilling their role, and if there is one gap in the chain, then it's all broken down. So I think you can afford to have Anthony out there, and I'm surprised to not see him out there. I have no idea why Spoelstra's been yanking him around and going with Turioff at points, and it just makes very little sense to me because Anthony seems like the same exact player as he was last year, and Haslam seems worse than he was when he played last year. So I don't quite understand why he's so dramatically pro-Haslam. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that also, I mean, especially we saw Haslam get torched off the dribble a couple times by Westbrook on the switches. And, I mean, as we said, like, Westbrook's going to do that, and Haslam gives a good effort. He tries to get in the right position. But he got smoked a couple times, and I just wonder if they're going to trap and rotate. There's really no one, almost no one in the NBA you would want doing that besides Joel Anthony. Now, Wade did have it. When he was on the court for 2 minutes, Wade had a turnover and did not look comfortable. So I would say don't play Joel Anthony when LeBron isn't on the court because you need to have that super passer to move the ball and to find Anthony at the rim. I don't think that works quite as well with Wade, even though Wade did accumulate some good assist numbers in Game 1. But I think that he'll play more, and I think that they will. I mean, Mike Miller can't be on the court. Like, he's just too slow, and he's not making shots, and he can't drive and kick like he was, right when they first got him. I guess he looked like he might be able to do that. So I think that you might see just a more athletic lineup in general with Cole and with Anthony getting more minutes.
Yeah, Wade was obviously a problem for them last game, as he has been in certain halves. He's been having just bad halves of basketball, and I don't know if it's that he's injured or just playing badly. We can't really know that, but I think if the Heat lose, this series, they should almost get credit. I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but it's funny. The Spurs flame out and the Celtics flame out, and they're just these hagiographies of their season, and oh, they had so much grit and they were so resilient, and I can respect them. I mean, we would not be saying this for the Miami Heat. If the Miami Heat were up 3-2 in a series and just got trounced in the final 2 games of that series, or were up 2-0 in a series and lost 4 games in a row, there is no way people would be talking about it like that. But yet, you see the Heat, they've had injured Chris Bosh, injured Wade, and they've been slogging forward against all of this adversity, as we call it, and doing quite well. So I think if the Heat do lose the series, I'll be among those fighting the counter meme and saying, you know, job well done, good job, good effort, whatever people are saying sarcastically, but I will mean it.
What's weird is that all of this conversation isn't going to matter when the Heat end up winning the next 4 games. I just feel like something ridiculous is about to happen, so it might as well be that.
Yeah, I think
that can only happen.
That, sorry, go ahead, Strauss.
No, it was not an important point. I was like, for that to happen, that would just be LeBron going crazy, and it would have the Dan Le Batard sort of just operatic soundtrack going the whole time. I think that would be what would be happening in real time, where you'd be hearing that soundtrack.
It's all going to be James Jones and Norris Cole going off. We're going to see historic 3-point barrages all game. Can't wait.
Yeah. Well, to the point about Wade, and this was a good segue into our next little segment here. But Wade was, didn't shoot the ball particularly well. Neither did Westbrook. Westbrook was 10 for 24, looked off, good opportunities to pass the ball multiple times. I mean, I know there's this whole Westbrook's not a true point guard, and he did have 11 assists, and it's all good because it works. Yes, but I think that it's also that doesn't mean we can't be critical of some of the ridiculous things that he does night in and night out. Similarly, and that he just has to cut them out and it'll be better. Similarly, if Wade just goes to the post and just cuts out some of those deep jumpers, then all of a sudden it's not like he has a terrible game. So I think that small tweaks on either end there are probably more likely than that Wade is entirely washed up. But I'm not going to let either of you respond to that point, that long-winded point, because we're moving directly to our Take the Bacon, which is a delicious Take the Bacon, one we've danced around a little bit in this show. Harden or Westbrook, assuming the Thunder decide they can only keep one because they just like that Ibaka fellow who keeps protecting the rim that way, so they decide they're only going to keep one, Westbrook or Harden. Who would you take?
Zach, I give you the floor.
You take Westbrook. Now that I've said Miami's going to win the next 4 games, the Thunder are totally going to win the title. And because of that, you don't break up the 2 best players on the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook team. Those are the 2 guys that have gotten them there. James Harden's very good. I've been trying to sell Ethan on James Harden for 3 years. He's finally buying now. But here's the thing. He's over-purchasing the James Harden stock. He's completely diluted the market by saying he is now better than Russell Westbrook.
There's a Harden bubble.
The bubble has burst. Harden is awesome. He's really good. Westbrook's better. He's a better defender. He's a better offensive player. He's not as efficient, but he's a suffocating offensive weapon that attacks you by either passing or shooting or getting to the basket. He shot poorly, I guess. I mean, 10 of 24 isn't good, but it's not terrible. I believe Harden was 2 of 6 or something like that. He only took 6 shots or 8 shots. I mean, Harden was insignificant in that game, and they still won because Westbrook not only created baskets for himself, but for everybody else. He got to the rim 11 times. He was actually pretty good on long-range twos. He was 2 of 4, over 4 from 3. This guy is just a better offensive weapon in almost every respect.
Can we just... as much as I want to get into it immediately and get into the fighting and get into the points, it's been a while since my tragic bacon gargling incident of a few weeks ago. I just admire how much control Zach thinks he has of events outside of Zach. He thinks that now the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to win the finals because he predicted against them, and he thinks that my opinion on James Harden has been wholly shaped by things he's told me about James Harden over the past 3 years.
For 3 years. You were saying he was terrible, and then they should have taken Curry. I've been selling you for 3 years on this guy.
Well, be that as it may, I think you can't point, Zach, you can't point to one game and say, oh, they won without Harden playing well in Westbrook. There are a few games. There are a few games like that in these playoffs where Harden has played well and Westbrook hasn't played especially well. Especially, I would note that game against Dallas where they were effectively closed out was just a sterling performance from Harden. Right now, he's a far more efficient player with his minutes. His true shooting is over 60%. And not only that, people say that Westbrook has a lot of room to improve. I think Harden does too. Harden doesn't have a right hand, and he also doesn't have a decent mid-range game right now. If he adds those elements, he's a much better player. And I think that he's better at running OKC's offense as opposed to just creating things from a fray or a scrum. So those are my reasons for preferring Harden, and they are legitimate, and they are my own, Zach.
I agree with you in the sense that that Harden can improve. I mean, he does have some significant shortcomings without being able to, have a right hand on most drives or really even be able to defend at all. Here's the thing. Westbrook has holes too, but he keeps improving them. I mean, his mid-range jumper was a disaster last year. I mean, he would pull up from 18 feet at bad times and just just kill his team with it. And now he's using it as a weapon because he's getting it closer, like 16, 15 feet from the basket, and just shredding. I mean, you can't guard him in the open court. You can't guard him in the half court because that jumper is just deadly now.
I would agree, but I would agree that he's improving facets of his game, but I also think that there's this sort of backlash against the Westbrook backlash. It's very fashionable in our blogging circles, where it's, let Westbrook be Westbrook. There's too much criticism. Derrick Rose is allowed to get away with it, and Westbrook isn't. Well, Derrick Rose is a sense of place and pace and situation that Westbrook doesn't have, and I think that matters. I don't think it's about violating any platonic point guard ideal. It's just doing crazy things. He does crazy things that frankly worry me. Like yesterday, he should have gotten a singular technical, if not worse, when he just slapped the ball out of Badier's hands. There are possessions where he'll often just stop for a full possession because he doesn't get a foul call to just stand and just haggle with the ref. And I know that's something that Wade gets criticized for, but Westbrook is even more egregious with it. And subjectively, if I'm choosing between one guy who's more efficient and one guy who's less efficient, and the less efficient guy seems to have just questionable judgment out there, then I think that tips the balance for me, as difficult as this question is to answer.
I am so glad you mentioned efficiency, because Russell Westbrook has a 22.8 PER to James Harden's 22.7 PER in these NBA playoffs. That is efficiency.
I'm not basing it on PER. PER, you can adjust your PER by shooting more. Any shot over 33%. Any shot over 33% essentially helps you in PER, so I would look more at win shares, which doesn't reward you so much for taking extra shots, to reward Harden with his efficiency.
All right, good arguments, both of you. I wasn't really paying attention though.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
You pulled a me.
You're checked out. You're completely checked out right now.
Look, I've got other responsibilities going on in the background here that you can't even begin to understand. You can't even fathom the crushing weight of what I'm going through. That's just kidding. I'm just checking my flight. I'm flying out of here in a little bit. Sadly, going to miss game 2. I'm going to have to watch it on replay. But I was going to say, Harden is going to be a better player than Westbrook, because if Harden was given the sorts of opportunities to do whatever he wanted at all times like Westbrook was, there's no doubt in my mind that he would put up a higher volume of numbers than he does now, which is really the only thing that holds him back in comparison to Westbrook. He's a better ball handler. He's a better passer. He has better understanding of team offense, although Westbrook, as we say, is improving. And I think ultimately the guy you want playing next to Durant is the one who can make all the right passes, not one who's going to look to freeze him out when he has a guy pinned under the rim, which Westbrook did on multiple occasions. So I'm giving the bacon to me for my opinion. Thank you for competing, you two.
Your opinion is my opinion.
This is ridiculous.
Your opinion's my opinion.
All right. No, I think it's my opinion. Speaking of opinions, we're bringing in longtime friend of the show, our guy. Oh, I should also tease we have a special guest hopefully dropping by after this. But first, he's our special guest because he's special to us. From the Heat Index, formerly, and now just a leading Heatologist along with his stuff on the Clippers, and you can follow him all throughout the finals on True Hoop, Kevin Arnovitz. How you doing?
Sir,
how's OKC?
How are you? OKC's nice. Enjoying my time here in Oklahoma City.
You said you found it. You found a good restaurant that you'd been dying to find.
We found the Portland of Oklahoma City. In one city block, there is a phenomenal coffee roaster with pour-over coffee. There's a yoga studio, which had like a just nasty 1-hour vinyasa class last night, and fine dining. So this was all good. We found this is the Portland of Oklahoma City. It's 7th and Hudson. Very pleased with the amenities here in the state.
Well, good, and spread the word because that city takes a beating sometimes. One thing I wanted to ask you, as the I guess, are you still in charge of the Thabo Sefolosha fan club, or has that been wrested from your control by Royce Webb?
Man, I went downstairs to hop on
Royce
the
Young,
bandwagon last night, and it was all full. It was just like the Thabo love reigning in the media and the public is incredible. I feel like I discovered this cool band, and now everybody's listening to it, and the top 40 stations got it on loop. And it's no fun to be a Thabo Sefolosha. I'm selling Thabo Sefolosha now at the top of his value.
Ethan will buy in 3 years.
But
I bought a small share.
I don't understand.
Well, he's very long, which Ethan, of course, loves.
Yeah, Ethan loves his wingspan. This is what I don't get, though. It's not like it's this novelty. Okay, so it's a surprise to people that when really good teams are playing other really good teams, that it might help to have the guy who best shuts down really good guys on the floor. This is some revelation that it's alterna to be pro Thabo, that it's contrarian, that it's some sort of boutique opinion. Oh, you might just want a voracious perimeter defender on the floor to stop really good scores. Wow. And by the way, he's a 43% shooter from 3-point range, so it's not like it's like Joel Anthony out there.
Right. Well, I want to get to Joel Anthony because I want to get your opinion on whether or not he can be useful in this series. They did leave him immediately, but on Thabo, it looked like he was much more effective against Wade than he was against LeBron. You think that Wade can still exert some of his typical offensive, efficiency and dynamism from the post? Is that a place where he can still have an advantage over Thabo?
Well, I challenge the premise. I think one of the things that we saw is the Heat couldn't get a post up for LeBron while Thabo was on him because he pretty much just breezed through that cross screen, particularly when it was Chalmers. And the truth is other than Anthony, there just isn't a good screener on that team. LeBron's obviously a great screener.
Can't screen for himself, though.
But I just screen for himself. But we have no tape on Oscar Robertson. None of us have ever actually seen him play. He is the most heralded, honored person that nobody has ever seen play basketball. I don't actually think Oscar Robertson exists. But at any rate, I think I don't know so much against Thabo, but I do know that there are going to be moments when Wade is cohabitating with James Harden, who, in the words of Jerry Colangelo, is an okay defender, which is, I think, being kind. Which is one area where I do go on the Westbrook-Harden debate. I kind of lean Westbrook on that issue alone. But I just think the stuff, Wade falling out of bounds into the sideline, just the leaning jumpers, it's just not. I mean, there's nothing ingenious here. It's just not high percentage basketball.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Ethan.
I was wondering, because you have a good command of the whiteboard aspects of basketball. There's been a lot of discussion, and we discussed it earlier, of how do you guard Kevin Durant? What's the proper strategy? What is the Kevin Arnovitz PowerPoint presentation on how to do that?
Man, there's just no good way to cover Kevin Durant. It's a larger conversation, and we've seen a lot about it. I don't love what the Heat are doing, and it's not that I dismiss switching out of hand, because I do think that when you have Battier on the floor, you might as well, you're giving up size, so you might as well claim the flexibility that you get from that. And if your 2, your 3, and your 4, and to some extent your 1 and your 5, I mean, Haslam and Chalmers are both fairly capable. Why not give yourself that privilege, because you're yielding the disadvantage. On the other hand, this is what I love about the Heat when they're playing well. It's just trap, rotate, rotate. And I don't think there's a team that's better at that and speedier than the Heat. And, Spoelstra, in his infinite sort of Rileyisms and kind of talking points, loves to talk about we need to be our identity, or we need to reclaim our identity, or we need to, whatever. And their identity fundamentally look, it's one thing if Ibaka or Collison are the role guy, but it just fun team or very hard and something that's bothering me. It's not the switching that I dismiss out of hand. I love what Oklahoma City did with the switch in the San Antonio series. I think context is everything. And here I just worry that the context is, get Joel Anthony back on the floor for, 15, 16 minutes. And just get there, because they're looking for Wade. I mean, the Thunder are so obviously looking to get that mismatch, and they're exploiting the hell out of it. And it's almost sad to say, Wade is this defensive liability, but I just think of that particular matchup. I mean, Durant said it an hour ago at shoot-around. I mean, he's like, hey, I'm looking to get looks against smaller guys because I can shoot over them. And Wade, while being the greatest shot-blocking guard of all time, he ain't going to get that ball.
This is quite germane and related to a lot of what you said right there. Mad Men versus Breaking Bad. Which is the better show and why? I want your opinion on that, because we discuss these things and we discuss these shows.
I mean, if we break down, you go Breaking Bad. It's a more linear show. And it's, oh man, Breaking Bad is so very, I know, like time and place. I'm still, season 5's been difficult because, you want your characters to be organic and you want them to be real and like turned out of advertising. And like, if that's his character, on the other hand, so it's like I want the show to be truthful to that. But then on the other hand, it was sort of like, now I'm watching a guy who's bored of his job when I want to see him like breathing fire the way he was last week in the Dow meeting. And so I can't compare the two shows. It's like, it's like comparing two ballers from different eras, even though obviously they're on concurrently. I can't do it. I refuse. I reject the question.
Oh, what a
This
cop
is very interesting.
Oh, I was hoping.
Ethan, you were hoping that he would pick Mad Men so you could fight him about it.
I know, no,
really
Kevin, just like Zach has brainwashed me into
See, if Zach
loving James Harden, apparently, Kevin is softening on Mad Men.
this question. No, the thing is, if Zach had asked this question, it would have been an entirely different conversation.
Boom.
You know the rhetorical traps that Ethan leaves.
No, this is done innocently.
There's nothing innocent about it.
Right, do I look like a grocer? Do I look like the girlfriend of someone else?
Beckley on G-Chat is far more negative about Mad Men than I am. I just want to put that out there. He's a secret Mad Men hater.
Oh yeah, so that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna air our G-Chat laundry. That's what HoopSpeak Live is gonna become. This is a rabbit hole you want to jump down out there. Oh wait, it's good time to point out that Tom Haberstroh is gonna be our special. Coming
Without beer this time.
Room of some gym here. All right, well, Kevin, that's our way.
Room?
Go, I'm telling you that we're gonna have someone on after you, so we need to keep it.
Where is Tom? Is he gonna? What is that?
Going on?
Where are you, Tom?
Looks like he's gonna.
Pandemonium.
What is happening right now? Oh boy.
Oh, it's the last time I lick a toad before going on HoopSpeak Live.
I think our producer is on bath salts right now.
Coach Lee's office. I'm in Coach Lee's office from the Yukon Covenant School in Yukon, Oklahoma. It's an epic 5-on-5 pickup game right now. We got Broussard, Bucher, Mark Stein, Brent Barry, Grant Long, former
Brent Barry does not belong in that list.
Wow.
It's an epic game right now. We just schooled Brent Barry, Henry Abbott, and Rick Bucher's team. This is the real
that's
finals.
gotta feel so good.
This is the real finals, everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, give us a scouting report.
On Brent Barry, I think we've got one.
Brent Barry drains 3-pointers like it's nobody's business, but he has to be down. Here's the thing: he takes it easy on us for
Is Abbott freezing him out?
Points, and then once we get up, he starts draining threes. Abbott is on his team. I think it's like a little bit of Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. They're just taking turns.
Is Abbott playing well in the post as he's wont to do?
What's that?
I was saying, is Abbott still doing that strange thing where he's playing as a post player even though he's 6 feet tall? That I don't understand. And is it effective?
Man, he's got a Shaquille O'Neal-esque drop step. I gotta tell you, he just throws it down in the paint. So he needs to go down there all the time. Henry Abbott.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's talk some finals.
Oh, fine. If we must. Do you have any hints on whether or not LeBron is really going to end up spending significantly more time on Battier? Do you, as Kevin Arnovitz just suggested on the show, do you think that it's a possibility he will? Wait,
what did I suggest?
Back to their, that they could get back to their trapping and rotating defense rather than switching. And thank you for coming on, by the way. James is yelling at me for not thanking you after I already tried to politely move it along.
Well, I'll just cut to the chase. I think Spo is going to keep Battier on Kevin Durant. I don't think he's really going to switch up after Game 1. The biggest thing, and Coach Fizdale and Spo, they both agree that they just need to play better defense, and they just have have to play a little bit wanted. They just weren't playing very fatigued. There's a little bit of that. They just weren't stepping up, and they were letting them just drive right by. And you have to remember, Spo is stubborn in a good way, where I think he looks at the process reactionary and say, well, they lost in game one, they must switch up everything. I think they're going to stick to the plan where have Battier for most of the game, and then I think they'll have LeBron switch on them late. But I think it can work for the Heat. They just have to play better defense. I know that sounds really boring, but they do just have to dig in and play a little bit harder. This is brought to you by Gatorade, by the way.
I hope they're a sponsor. Before we get into the finals, I know you've already started talking to them. I'm fascinated by this pickup game. If we've got Westbrook, Harden, and Durant out of Broussard, Bucher, and Stein, which one is which?
Stein is obviously Harden.
Well, let me see if we can get it.
Obviously. Oh my God. Oh, this is great.
Oh, live looking! Live looking!
Oh. From Monte Carlo.
Bucher, Barry, and Abbott.
No,
I'm gonna go with
Bucher,
Abbott is
Broussard,
definitely Russell
and
Westbrook.
Stein.
Okay.
So many
Stein
Bs.
is Harden, Bucher is Durant, and Henry Abbott is Westbrook. Were those the three that you were looking for?
So Henry won't pass. Henry won't pass at all?
And Henry, when he has a really big mouth, when he gets excited, he just starts screaming. Yeah. I think it's
true.
I mean, it's identical.
So, all right, back to the finals. I suggested Joel Anthony needs to be on the court to protect the basket, and if anything, I think he helps their rebounding enough, at least because he will box out. He'll at least put a body on someone. It just seems like Miami couldn't find a way to. He doesn't box out well, but he's at least in there. Miami couldn't find a way to like get out in transition. They had 9 transition possessions according to Synergy, and the Thunder more than doubled that. How do they fix that? Because they were a very good transition team offensively and defensively. They did none of that in the first game.
Stops. That's the name of the game. The Heat can't do anything if they don't get stops. Joel Anthony, that would be the reason why he was going to be on the floor, is that he is an awesome pick-and-roll defender. And if they're going to create havoc in the defense, Joel Anthony's the guy to do it. He is not a good rebounder. I don't care what you say, Zach. Just because he's I'm
not saying he's a good rebounder. I'm saying he at least takes up a body off the boards. He at least gets in there and accidentally fumbles around and mixes it up. He's like Bambi on ice, kind of like JaVale McGee.
So just
he's
by
at least in there
he's
hitting somebody.
Get her help out rebounding. But no, I think Joel needs to play more. I think there's no sense in keeping him on the bench in a game where they couldn't stop anyone. That was the big confusion on my part, was you can't get stops. Why do you even have Joel Anthony on the roster? He is the guy that they need to have, and if they're running pick and rolls, he is going to be the stopper. But I think beyond that, I think Dwayne Wade and LeBron James need to just play a little bit better defense. I don't think LeBron played his best game. I don't think Dwayne Wade played far from his best game. So at the end of the day, they can't get out in transition if they don't get stops. And I think that's basketball 101. But fans seem to think that, they just got to run and create fast break opportunities out of thin air and just hope for it and work real hard. But it's not. They got to play some defense. And they've never been outscored by 20 points in the fast break column since the Big Three arrived. So that's a huge differential that they got to close up in Game 2.
So why was the rotation so short? I mean, they said that James Jones had a migraine. Why did Joel Anthony only play 2 minutes? Why? It just seems weird that all of a sudden the roster wasn't available. What's your take on that whole situation?
I don't know. I think everyone's guessing. Spoelstra's being very coy about it, saying, code words like, we'll see who's available in Game 2. But I don't have any indication that Joel Anthony is hurt. James Jones might have a migraine. those are the two guys that I would look to see come off the bench in Game 2. I don't know how much left. We've been saying this for weeks now. I've been saying this on HoopSpeak Live for weeks now. I don't know how much left, how much Mike Miller has left out on the floor. So they really need James Jones to step up and hit some threes and actually be able to move out on the court, because right now Mike Miller is just really tough to watch. So Shane Battier, he's not going to score 17 points again, so I don't think they can really expect that from him. They're going to need James Jones to step up especially. I don't know if he has migraines today, but every indication I can see is that he'll play.
Hey, Tom. I'm wondering, have we settled the debate over how important Chris Bosh is? Because it swung wildly from end to end as not that important to immensely important. And if you had to choose who is more essential to their success, Bosh or Wade, if they had to choose one of them right now?
I'd take Bosh every time. For this team with LeBron James, I'm taking Bosh. They don't have any depth behind him. Udonis Haslem, he's good for maybe 1 or 2 jumpers a game and then like 10 rebounds, but he's not the defender he once was, and they just don't have any offense outside of that. So they need Chris Bosh, if only because his VORP, value over replacement player. That's a really dorky term, but it's true in this sense. The VORP, the value over replacement for Dwayne Wade is very small because he has LeBron James backing him up as a creator, as a perimeter defender. But Chris Bosh, there's no one else. So they need Chris Bosh. They're so much better with Chris Bosh. I think they're like 5-4 without Chris Bosh, and then like a gazillion and 3 with him. So I think they're pretty definitively better with Chris Bosh. I don't know if Dwayne Wade at this point in his career is as useful to this team as Chris Bosh is. But I think we kind of knew that going into the Big 3 era, that at the other side of 30, that's not the right direction. I think Chris Bosh is the better player at this point, and he's younger, and he's the big man that the Heat don't have otherwise.
Sometimes I listen to the Dan Le Batard show because it's very entertaining, and you've become almost symbolic there. It's kind of cool. It's like your name is now a verb or a noun that's not about your name but about describing a school of thought. And I want to know, how do you feel about this? And I also want to know, are you winning over Stugotz? Do you think that you're making inroads and converting him to your ways of thinking?
If they're talking about me in a good way, then I'm all for it. I don't know what they mock me from time to time just because of how many stats I like to spew out there. But Stugotz he's the man. He comes from a different school of thought than I do, and we disagree all the time. We talk off air. I think he says he's warming up to the statistics, but he says he still goes with his gut feeling. And I just say, I don't want to go to Vegas with you, because if you're just going to go and bet on red and roulette, I don't know if I really want to play. I don't think it's a good. Going with your gut is nothing. I don't like to go with my gut. So he's good. He's a great guy. Le Batard brings me on to talk statistics and analytics, and as long as they're referencing me, I guess that's a good thing. I don't know, but as long as it's good, I'm all for it. They're great guys.
Nice. Well, before you go, can you give us any tidbits, any scouting reports from the court? Who has a game that you might not expect, and who plays exactly how you would expect him to play?
Okay, well, I'll say this. The best player out on the court, next to Brent Barry and Grant Long, is hands down Chris Broussard. He can play. And
that's what I've heard. I want Broussard!
Underrated player, Mike Wise.
Ah!
You know what, that would be
Mike
a great
Wise.
matchup. I've seen you play Beckley. And I think it would be an awesome matchup. I think, who's the most underrated player out there? I'm going to go with Mike Wise. He is a big dude, and he's got skills. He can play.
Who's Brent Barry guarding?
Cooper Moorhead. Cooper Moorhead's like 6'5". So, I was just talking in the post. in one of these games. He didn't get in the first game, but you know, I'll keep this on the down low. But I stripped Brent Barry for the game-winning bucket. I didn't.
Oh!
Just to let you guys know.
That is actually a pretty awesome thing.
I wish you'd cut out his keep this on the download. I stripped Brent Barry.
No. We did beat him in the first game, but that's not going to happen again. I will guarantee it. So we got one in, and that's about it.
Yeah, it seems unfair for one team to have a former NBA. I guess he was never a dunk champion though, at least, and like participant in the 3-point shootout. But what do I know?
What probably the most underappreciated career, Brent Barry. How many guys can shoot like that and be in the dunk contest?
Well, he was also just a really kind of funky dude. When he played in Seattle, he would drive like this old beat up minivan to work every day. And so like you'd see him with like his child seat in it, and like, you know, people would show up in their nice cars, and Barry just had like a total soccer mom vehicle and didn't care at all.
Well, that's the big story out of here, is that that Scott Brooks drives a Toyota Corolla, but sources close to the situation say that he drives, in fact, a Toyota Prius, which I think is a big difference.
Oh, well, I wonder how his bosses, which is an energy company, feel about him driving a efficiency vehicle. Tension in Oklahoma City?
I think he told Kendrick Perkins to say a Corolla, and now the word is out, and I think Scott Brooks is in the hot seat in the finals.
Well, when you're at the arena, what is Scott Brooks's kind of on-court? Because we only see so much from when they're doing the cutaways, and you know they'll get like it's obviously that they're trying to present a certain Scott Brooks. When you're at the arena and you're watching him, what strikes you about his demeanor and how he relates to his players?
You know, I think that's the number one thing, is that they are all on the same page. They love Scott Brooks, and for a team that needs that guidance and that camaraderie, I mean, they have that in spades. So credit Scott Brooks on that. He's a very articulate, intelligent coach. This is the first time that I've talked to him in person, and he's wowed me. I think he gets a lot of undue criticism. I think he and Eric Spoelstra are in the same boat, where people aren't familiar with them. They're not household names, and so therefore, if they have all this talent and they're underperforming, then it's got to be him. But ultimately, I think these are two excellent young coaches in the league, and they'll be in this league for a very long time. Scott Brooks has definitely earned his spot in the finals this year, I would say.
I'm wondering, Tom, if they somehow, by some miracle, keep this Oklahoma City team together. I don't know how they would do that, or kind of what favors they would have to call in to make it happen. But this core to me seems like it could potentially challenge the 72-win Bulls if it stayed together through their mid-20s, mid to late 20s. Am I crazy for thinking that? Could you see that as a possibility? Are they that good?
That's their ceiling. Yeah, I would say that's their ceiling. I don't think it's reasonable to suspect that, just because I think that's so hard to do. The pieces have to fit so perfectly. And I don't think Russell Westbrook is your prototypical point guard. I think that eventually they might move him to the 2. That might be where he is long term. I remember I was talking to some exec a few years ago, and this was preposterous at the time, but he said, you know who they could really use is Steve Nash, and slide Russell Westbrook to the 2 and trade James Harden for some bigs. And the more I thought about it, I really like that idea that you get a real distributor at the 1, and then you put Russell Westbrook to a position that he might not initially want to go to, but he's really built to play the 2 spot. I mean, he's an attacker, slasher, off the ball, and yeah, he can still roll in the he can still play in the pick and roll. But at the end of the day, this team is going to be very good for a very long time. I think they're going to have some questions with Serge Ibaka, whether they're going to be able to keep him on the team. But yeah, they're going to be great. Will they challenge the 72-win record? I'm not so sure just yet, but let's check in like a year or two, especially if we keep having lockout shortened seasons. 72 wins is really tough to do. And so
I have faith in them. I need to ask you about this. You were caught drinking a beverage as you asked a question to, I believe, Commissioner
Yes.
David Stern.
It's filled
And since, I mean,
this is filled with vodka.
on Twitter you said it was tea, but right now you're in a very private sphere. You know, we only have so many viewers. I think you can level with us. What was the beverage actually, and what was the funniest reaction that you got to getting that caught on camera?
Well, I will always say this: you never want to be caught as a subject in one of the network's photo streams. And when I pulled up my phone, I saw that network was tweeting about me, and I was horrified. I was like, "What did I do?" And then, you know, I didn't realize it at the time. I had no idea what was going on, and then I figured it out, obviously, pretty quickly. But listen, right before that, I'm going to come straight with you guys. Before that, I poured some iced tea, and I might have slipped some vodka in there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But it was a nice tea somewhere. It was a nice tea, and I'm just so happy that I was spared by David Stern. He could have lit me up on fire. I mean, Tom, you're slurring on your speech there. Are you sure you should be asking questions at this press conference? Like, he could have done that, but he didn't. So I really appreciate that from David Stern. Really appreciate that.
You still getting drunk and beating your wife, Tom? Well, don't answer that. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for dropping by even during the game. You gotta talk. Yeah, fiance, excuse me. You gotta get in Abbott's head. It's not that hard. Yeah. Just talk to him about that elbow. Where his elbow is on a shot.
I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna tell him he's playing like Kobe. It's gonna throw him way off because he hates Kobe. Hates him.
All right, thanks a lot, Tom.
But yeah, thanks, guys.
Good luck out there. Well, Tom Haberstroh from the gymnasium with a better connection than Kevin could get from his hotel, which was odd. But now we have a HoopSpeak Live first. Really excited to have this guy on. Met him a couple years ago almost at Sloan. Interesting dude, really cool career. Let's bring him on from Draft Express, Jonathan Givony.
Hey, Jonathan. Nice to have you on.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I love your site. Like so many people, I'm a huge fan of your site. If for no other reason, just to have accurate wingspans and accurate in-socks height. It's just so nice to have one location that has all the real heights as opposed to the BS that they have on NBA.com. Transitioning to the draft, though, I've been thinking a lot about Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and where he falls in. Is he really going to be the #2 pick? Because he seems like a bit of a risk to take a wing without a jumper and with a questionable handle. I'm surprised that he's elevated this high, and I just want to know your thoughts on him as a potential 2 or 3 pick.
I like him. I don't think he's going to go #2. I think that Thomas Robinson definitely is a front runner for that pick right now. You know, Charlotte being the worst team in the NBA, certainly offensively, they need, you know, a little bit more of an impact guy than Kidd-Gilchrist. Kidd-Gilchrist is a guy that, you know, needs other good players around him to really play up to his full potential. So I like him a lot. I think he's an unbelievable competitor. He's a great athlete. He's a great defender. He's great in transition. And he's going to have a really good NBA career, but I don't ever see him being the #1 or #2 option on his team.
Well, since obviously I'm negatively minded when it comes to these prospects, I have concerns about Thomas Robinson at #2. He seems small to me. He seems short, and I worry about a power forward who doesn't block shots because bigs who don't block shots at the college level often struggle at the next level, with some exceptions like Carlos Boozer. What counter argument could you make to me about why Thomas Robinson will triumph over that and will transcend that and be a really effective player at the pro level?
I mean, he's 6'9". He has a 7'3" wingspan. That's above average for an NBA power forward. You know, we have a database that tracks all these things, and we have a pretty accurate sense of what the average NBA power forward looks like, and he's above average with those measurements. he's not going to be a shot blocker, but he was the #1 rebounder in college basketball, and that's something that definitely translates. The guy is a competitor. He really works. You see, what he's done offensively, how much he's improved the last couple of years. There's not a huge separation between the guy that goes 2 and the guy that goes 6. So it's not one of those drafts where, it's like the Greg Oden, Kevin Durant draft where the draft starts at 3. The draft starts at 2, and it's a matter of who you really like. And I think Thomas Robinson is a great fit for Charlotte. I don't know that he's going to be the answer to all their problems, but he's definitely he's going to be a good starter in the NBA for a long time.
Am I crazy to think that Andre Drummond should be the #2 pick? I know he disappointed in his freshman year, but there's only one player in the draft class whom you could point to and say, I could see him being better than Anthony Davis. I could see that conceivably happening, and I think Drummond is the only guy. Based on that alone, is he a worthy #2 pick?
I'm a fan of Andre Drummond. I have been for a while. I just don't think that I don't think it's a good fit. Him going to Charlotte, they just drafted Biyombo last year. They were such a bad team offensively, and he's a very limited player offensively. I think he will be for the first 3 or 4 years of his career. So I just don't see that being a great fit for him. But I agree that there's a very strong case for him to be the #2 prospect in this draft, and I could totally get behind that as well.
Based on highlights, I've become a big Evan Fournier fan. He just seems to move quite gracefully, and he occasionally reminds me of Brandon Roy. I don't know if I'm getting too excited based off the highlights. What do you think his comparison would be in the United States, and what do you think his ceiling is, potentially?
I like him quite a bit too. His style of play is very attractive, and the guys in France at Poitiers have done a very good job of marketing him and getting out the right stuff. He has like a private documentary crew that kind of follows him around, and they're very tech savvy. So they have put out a large amount of film of his best plays from the last 2 years. So he looks really, really good in those highlights. So I like him a lot. I think that he has to find an outside shot to be an NBA player. Right? He shot like 20% for 3 or something like that, and I just don't think he is he's that athletic that he's going to be able to live in the paint the way that he does in the French league in the NBA. So I think there's no reason why he can't be a good shooter, but it's going to take him some time. But I like him quite a bit. I think he's going to be a good pick for someone in the 20s.
Who out of 3 players who there are a lot of there's a lot of argument about will have the best career in your opinion? I know it's very hard. It's taking a shot in the dark, but I'm just wondering between Terrence Jones. I like Terrence Jones a lot. Sullinger and Kendall Marshall. If you had to pick one for a great NBA career, who would you pick among the 3 and why?
I mean, this is a little bit of a cop-out, but it really depends who drafts these guys. I think that on the night of the draft, after they get picked, I would feel a lot more confident predicting who's going to have the best NBA career, because not all 30 NBA teams are not equal in terms of their player development and in terms of the way the chance that they give for these guys to live up to their full potential. So I think I like Kendall Marshall a lot. I think that he's a pretty easy guy to fit into an NBA team. Such a pass-first guy. He makes everybody better. I don't have any doubts about him. Now Terrence Jones is a guy that is really a boom or bust type of player. It really depends on where he goes. So if he goes to the right team, I think he's going to have a great NBA career. If he goes to the wrong team, then I could see him being out of the league in 5 years.
Wow, I did not expect that. I thought Terrence Jones. I wouldn't have put the bust that low. You just got back from Italy. You were checking out Eurocamp. So we've got some questions, predictably, about European players. I'm just going to hit you with 3 rapid-fire questions, all right, from our audience.
Okay.
This one's from DeMarcus Robinson. Who do I have to bribe to get Marotic over here to the Bulls before 2015-16?
Mirotic.
Thank you. Okay, let's put this out there now. I'm going to be awful with these names, so correct it, Will.
Who do you have to bribe? His agent would be a good place to start. He actually has a very honest and reputable agent who is definitely looking out for his best interest. But when you're talking about European players, you have to understand that their agents get paid 10% on top of their contract by their European team. So Mirotic's agent makes 10% on top of his deal from Real Madrid. Whereas if he would come to the NBA right now, he would make 4% at max, but in actuality he would split that with an American agent because he doesn't want his guy to get plucked by someone else. So he's going to hand him off to an American agent who's going to take care of him and look after him and keep the Sharks at bay. So he's going to make 2%. So you're talking about that's a lot. That's a big gap. 5 times as much money he would make. So I do think that when the time is right, his agent will send him to the NBA and do the right thing for him. But that's something that that is definitely a concern. So he's Montenegrin, but he has a Spanish passport, and there's a quota in Spain. You have to have like 6 Spanish guys on every roster. So those guys, their value is artificially inflated even more, and so it's going to be hard to get him out. He has like another 3 or 4 more years on his contract, and I don't think
he's killing it over there.
Over here, he's amazing. Yeah, if he had no buyout issues, he would have been a lottery pick without a question. So I think it's going to be 2015 at the earliest before we see him.
Well, someone who is planning to come over next year is Mota Yunus. Who knows where I landed on that one.
That was good.
Thank you. He seems to have progressed this year. Where do you think, if he was in this draft, where do you think he would end up? Yeah.
He had a good year. He kind of dropped down a level. He went to a team in Poland, Procom, that had a Lithuanian coach, and he probably didn't. Whenever he was supposed to get paid, he didn't get a whole lot of that. But he was able to be kind of like a go-to guy on a bad team, which is a good thing for him. He played a lot of games, and he really improved his rebounding quite a bit. Probably like 30% higher his rebounding rate was this year compared to last year. He was still very inconsistent. Where he would go in this draft, I think he would probably go lower, actually. I think it's a deeper draft. This is 1 through 20 in this draft is very, very strong. I think he would go in the 20s if he was in this year's draft right now.
Yeah, okay, one more on a player that we all are going to learn a lot about because he might be a top 5 pick. Bradley Beal. Are you sold on him? I don't know enough to really feel strongly one or either way, but I don't get why he's such a highly touted prospect, which probably means he's going to be a great pro.
I'm sold on him, not as a superstar, but as a really good starter. I'm not sure he's going to be an all-star, but he has very few holes in his game. He's a very good shooter. He's a great rebounder. He's a great defender. He gets to the rim. He's a very smart guy. He knows how to play, and he's got a nice build too. So he doesn't. He's a pretty safe pick, I think.
Right
at 4 or 3. Or
there's not a lot of
3,
shooting
4,
guards
5.
in this draft that are exciting to people either.
There's a couple guys like Jeremy Lamb who could be, great, or could be like Terrence Jones out of the NBA in 5 years. So Deion Waiters, another example. Austin Rivers. I mean, these guys all could be better players as rookies than Bradley Beal. But I like, I like Bradley Beal, in the long term.
Florida guys, they work out pretty well usually.
They do, yeah. It's true. It's true. They do.
I have a question. So Harrison Barnes is still a top 8 guy in a lot of drafts. A lot of people have him possibly going to the Warriors at 7. He had a great vertical at the combine, which sort of surprised people. Some didn't think he looked that athletic in how he played. To me, it is sort of shocking that he's still this highly regarded. Is this UNC inflation, or is this legit?
I think this is legit. I mean, how many guys do you have who are 6'8", 235, can defend, can shoot, can pretty much can do everything, essentially. He's not
He can't dribble, though. No, he can't dribble.
Other than dribbling, he's a great basketball player. So he can dribble.
Wes Johnson.
Think, what's fun? Well, you have to remember when you look at Harrison Barnes is that look at who was around him. He had Kendall Marshall, who's a non-shooter, Dexter Strickland, non-shooter, and then John Henson and Tyler Zeller, who never left the paint. So what kind of spacing are you going to have on a team like that? Not a whole lot, So I think in the NBA, where the 3-point arc is further out, and he's gonna have a power forward who can hit a mid-range jumper. I think that's going to open some things up in his game, and I don't think he's gonna have a problem with the NBA 3-point line, for example. I think that's going to come naturally for him. And the guy is such a worker. He is, he has such huge ambition to be a great player that I think he's going to, he's only 19 years old. He's going to continue to get better as time moves on. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to figure it out. But he's not going to be, he's not, LeBron or anything like that. I think he's a really, really good role player. We compared him to like Luol Deng. I think he's like a 6'8" version of Aaron Aflalo is what he is.
Well, if he can defend at the pro level like that, that'll be super impressive. We've run a little bit over, but I really appreciate you giving us this extra time, and I know that everyone watching is excited that you were able to drop by too. Hopefully we can do it again, before or right after the draft. I'm sure you'll be sort of busy between now and then.
A little bit, yeah. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonathan.
All right. And you can read all of Jonathan and his excellent scout stuff on draftexpress.com. I have to go, so we are neither daggering, smashing, nor noting, although I will say that Zach Harper wanted to note that the top 2 pick from the Bobcats for James Harden was, and let's see if I can get the quote here, stupidest thing in the world right now. So he would like you to note that. The stupidest.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we need to let you go. I was actually mulling trying to do all 3. I was mulling trying to just fashion or improvise a dagger smash noted after your exit. I don't know. You guys can challenge me and we can see how I do. James, are you down for that? Producer James, can you give me a signal off camera? Yay or nay? Yes. Okay, Beckley. On your way. I'm gonna try to dagger smash noted on my lonesome here.
You're the big superstar. Thanks everybody. See you next week.
The big only child. Okay. My dagger would be, a lot of people were talking about Isaiah Thomas in the Dream Team documentary having been frozen out or chosen against. And when I looked at Isaiah Thomas's numbers, you have to wonder if he actually deserved that spot on the Dream Team. It was very curious. His efficiency back in the day wasn't what you might think it was, but perhaps he brought other things to the table and it was a different era. So I found that quite interesting. So I need to look into Isaiah Thomas. My smash would be that I don't want the Warriors to take Harrison Barnes. I will prefer Terrence Jones, and my prediction is that Terrence Jones will have a better career than Harrison Barnes. We'll see. I once predicted that Kyrie Irving would have a better career than John Wall. So far, it looks like I'm looking out on that. And my noted would just be Back to the Dream Team documentary. Please watch that again. It was awesome. It's a fairly prosaic noted. I've gone through all of it. Thanks all of you guys for coming on to the show and watching and listening to HoopSpeak Live, even fake Ethan Sherwood Strauss. And have a great day. Take me out, James. Take me out.